Yeah, just be more natural than that. Just a touch.
Okay, so for this teapot, I'm going to be doing a taller shape. It's going to be a medium size. So once again, I'm going to just center, open up the clay and make a cylinder quickly for you now. Okay, so now I've got a cylinder. We've got this nice thick top to the cylinder. I'm going to just mop out all of the water from the bottom to make sure you've got that nice flat interior so it's easy to clean. And just take the sponge and just really make sure that that is nice and flat at the bottom there, so it's easy to clean. Alright, so now we're thinking about shape. Now I want it to be sort of about this wide at the bottom and opening out, and with quite a small little hole at the top. So I've got quite a lot of thickness here, so I should be able to work with that to bring it over once I've flat it out a little bit from the bottom. I've still got a bit of thickness in the walls to enable the shaping, and so it doesn't get too flimsy as I am shaping it. It's good to start mosquitoes with a thicker base a thicker wall when you're opening out. So bear in mind I want that nice sort of tapered look at the bottom, so I'm not changing it too much at the bottom, and as I'm pulling it up I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on the inside and not letting it go too far out with my outside hand there, and just releasing at the top here, making sure we've got a bit of clay to work with now. I'm liking that shape, that's looking nice. Excellent. So working on this top section now, sort of to bring it over. So the first thing I'm going to do is sort of collar it in on itself. Just a little bit. I'm going to get my hand in once more and just go over the shape of it. Just one more time. Make sure I'm really happy with that. I feel like I can get a bit more of a shoulder into this piece, I'll be happy. Perfect. So I can take a rip and clean up these throw lines. After we're done with the rim here, I'm just going to mop it out from the inside with the sponge, and I'm going to zoom in on the rim so you can see really clearly what I'm doing when I'm making the valley for the lid to sit on. Cool, so you've now got a really clear view of this area here, which is eventually what the lid is going to sit on. What I'm actually going to do with this is try and close it in to be quite a small little hole, which will be a small little lid. Yeah, so just watch carefully and you'll see how I do that. So I'm supporting on the inside with this hand, and I'm just putting a little pressure on the outside I'm pushing it down and towards my fingers. It's not going to cave all the way in. My fingers are on the inside, supporting it. But you can see now that we've got this shoulder happening here. So we've got quite a lot of thickness. So I'm just going to try and do a little pull here and sort of pull that there and get rid of that extra thickness that we've carried and really push that towards the top section there, which is where we're going to make the valley. So you can see I've got this angle here at the top, and you can see that there's quite a lot of clay still in this area. So essentially what I'm going to do is cut this angle here to this angle. You probably can't see that because of the camera angle, but yeah, so I'm cutting it from being on a 45 to having a 90. So the way I'm going to do that is by using a tool, but first of all I'm going to try and make this outside lip just a little bit more prominent by just putting a little bit of pressure here, supporting on the inside with my other hand. Cool. So I'll just smooth that down. It's a little bit wet. I don't throw the sponge very often, but I do always have one handy. I do use the sponge very often, but I just don't throw with one. Cool, so what I'm going to do is just try and widen this out a little bit using some of that thickness that we've got here. So I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on the top here and pushing down. I've got my other finger underneath, so I can't ever push it too far. Excellent. So now what I'm going to do is take this tool here. I'm just going to cut into the clay and emphasize that ridge a little bit further. We're supporting on the inside with 2 fingers and really strong holding the tool. So you want to hold the tool so it can't be pulled out of your hand at all by the clay. I like to have a finger on the end, so I can control the pressure. And just a little bit at a time. You don't want to take too much, but you want to take enough that there's a seat there. Always supporting on the inside with your other fingers. And we can see there that that's enough there for a lid to sit in. So what I'm going to do is just come in with my pinky and smooth this down to be flat. Cool. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to stand this edge up a little. And I might go back in there with the tool one last time. And I might go in there with my square edge now. And just really take a little bit more. Cool. So just neaten all of that up with your fingers. Just really careful, really delicate, fine touches. Always supporting on both sides. You never want to just come straight in and push down on this. It's a really thin, delicate bit of clay. So you just want to be really delicate with all of your touches, really fine. And we can see there we've got this really nice, defined, proud top of the teapot now. So I'm just going to come in and shape the rest of this and get rid of those throw lines that I so hate. This is obviously not the only way to make a teapot. This video is just to sort of show you how I do it. I've learnt off lots of YouTube videos myself. I've learnt of people in real life, and I've learnt from my own experience, and I just want to share that. Alright, one final thing to do is just to get rid of this skirt that's at the bottom here. Give it a nice tapered base. Okay. So now I just got to get it off the wheel, and as you can see I didn't use a bat, so good luck. Okay, not that bad. Got a couple of fingerprints, can fix those at a later date. Didn't lose its shape. The valley actually helps with that. It actually gives the top of the pot more rigidity, because you've actually got a lot more clay up here than you would usually have. So what we need to do now is just measure this top section with the calipers. So you can see it's a little bit larger than the one we did yesterday. Let's come back in a little bit. Perfect. So that's where we know inside of our lid has got to be, and we know that the outside has got to be half a centimetre, just more than that, so not too much more. So we can pop those aside, save those for later, and grab our other bit of clay to make our lid and spout. Alright, so firstly I'm going to get this in the centre. We're going to throw it off the hump again. If you can't throw off the hump, you need 2 bits of clay. I'm just going to do it all out of one. We'll be making 2 lids, 2 spouts once again. 1 drop lid, 1 lid like I did on the first teapot, and 1 long spout and 1 tiny little spout like I like to make. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get a little bit of clay, separate it off to make the first spout. Okay, so this one is going to be the tall spout. So to do that, what I'm going to do is just open this bit of clay up. And I'm going down to roughly this area here. And then I'm going to start pulling this up. So this is the sort of spout that would be on a very traditional style teapot. It's got like a bulbous section at the bottom and it tapers to a thinner spout that you pour out of. Okay, so we can see here that we've got just a long, straight, tiny cylinder at this point. So what we're going to do here is just at the bottom put a little bit of pressure with our inside finger and start to flare out that bottom section and sort of bring that further up into the piece. But when we get to about here, we want to start pushing back in. And we can see now we've got this sort of bulb section here at the bottom, which is perfect. It's exactly what we're looking for. So you just want to make sure it's nice and wet, and then we just want to pull this top section out again. Now don't worry if it starts to get a bit wide, we can always collar it in. Got to be careful when you get to the top here. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to color in this spout, but I'm just going to start from here, and I'm using the 6-point method, so that's using these fingers, middle finger, but on the knuckle here, and your thumb. So fingers at the back, middle fingers in the middle, thumbs at the front. I'm not moving really fast. It's really important when you're coloring in, you want to move at the same speed as the wheel. Much the same as when you're pulling. Cool. So once again, I'm just going to get my finger on the inside. I'm just going to try and pull this section out. I still feel like it's a little bit thick for my taste. So just once again colouring in this top section here. Cool, so you can see that as I coloured in I actually released at the top there, and I'm even going to get my finger on the inside and flare this out just slightly at the end here. Just a bit of a different spout. And just give it a nice finished top there. And just cut that off the top. Just give it a little wiggle and just pop that on the back next to the board. And then we're on to the next little spout. So for this one, just a really tiny amount of clay. That we need for this. Once again, just making a small hole in the section of clay you've opening it out slightly, pulling that little wall of the spout. Really like the tapered shape on the tiny spout, starting quite fat, not ever getting to really skinny, although I do that occasionally. I do just like this tiny little triangle that is created by doing it this way. It really satisfies my eyes. And you can see I just really curve over that edge and take it to this really thin edge here. It's something that I like to do, and even though you can see that we've got this little bit of an undulation at the top there, I just leave it like that. We actually trim those. Trim the top of the spout when we're assembling the teapot anyway, to make sure that it can pour really well. So I'm never too bothered about it at this point. What I will say is it's always really important when you are making spouts to make sure there's no lumps or anything on the inside of the spout that anything's going to get stuck on the way out of the teapot. Cool. So I'll just cut that one off and put it with its brother. And then we're on to making 2 lids. Now, the reason I make 2 of everything when I make a teapot except for the body is because, one, I'm a little bit clumsy and I tend to break things, drop things, lose things. And number 2 is that one always looks better than the other. It's just the way it has to be. But I like to have options. And sometimes I will want the pot to look a certain way, and actually using the opposite or the other spout or lid to what I originally planned to use is what I end up doing, just because it looks better at the time. So I think it's always good to give yourself options, even if you do have a very specific idea. Something else that you could make on the spot might actually be better. Cool, so the first lid we're doing exactly the same as yesterday. So we know that our inside edge has to be about as wide as the ball of clay is at the moment. So what I'm actually going to do is just flatten that down a little and make my life slightly easier. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is just take my finger and sort of open it up a little in the middle there, to be a little bit of a bowl shape. But not too much, not too deep. Excellent. And then we're looking at this, and actually what I'm going to do this time is use this tool that I used just before to make the valley, and it's just a square tool. It's got a bit of a gradient. I mean, I've got a square one as well, I just can't. There it is. We'll use the actual square. And all I'm doing is I'm putting this square tool, if we look with the calipers sit here, I'll be putting the square tool around here, and just very slowly, a little bit of pressure at the time with every rotation, moving it down, just cutting into that area of the clay. And this is slightly different to how I did it yesterday. But essentially achieving the same result. There's a million ways to do everything, and there's definitely so many ways to make a lid. I really like to look at my piece and decide how to make the lid rather than just knowing one specific way to do it. I think, yeah, being creative and innovative in that way allows you to always make pieces that look like they should go together rather than a piece where the lid is just something you've made again and again and again for every single piece that has a lid, and it's the only one you know how to do, and it sort of looks out of place on the top of a teapot. But yeah, that's just my thought process behind lids, I guess. And much the same as yesterday, I'm just putting a little bit of pressure here just to bring that clay in on itself. And I'm actually going to cut this one off and just lay this back out slightly. And I'm even going to just give this a little bit of a trim because we've got a bit too wide now for what's going to actually sit inside that teapot. So if we see here, that's going to sit down nicely, but we only need about 1/2 centimetre here on the outside. So I'll grab my needle. Which I had yesterday, so I know it's here. And I'm just popping the needle in here and just taking that outside edge off. And I just know from eye that is going to fit. If you're unsure, just take your calipers and measure it. Exactly the same. You know, you can actually get calipers that have a double end, so you can measure with one end and the other. You can get 2 sets of calipers. You know, there's a million ways around things if you're not feeling confident. But yeah, I'd like to eye it off. I'm pretty confident in that. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a wall here on this inside lip. Excellent. So I'll just wire this one off. Not the best wiring job I've ever done. And we can see that's a bit of a different shape to what we did yesterday, but still essentially the same thing. This will sit on the valley we just made, and that will drop down into the center part of the teapot. Okay, now the next lid I'm going to do is the very first lid that I ever taught myself to make. And I say taught myself because I made it by accident. And then I was pretty happy with those results. Now I haven't done it in a little while, so we'll see how we go. But essentially I would put a little bit of pressure on here, and I saw that made this nice little knob in the middle, and I wanted to sort of utilize that. And so what we're doing is we're just putting a little bit of pressure and building up that knob. Almost like collaring in. Excellent, and we can see that we'll be able to use that. And then all I would do is put a little pressure here, and you can see it's sort of opening out. But it's opening out a little bit more than this underside part. So we need a little bit more than what we've got. So I'm going to just put a little bit of pressure down at the bottom here, and that's going to move up a little bit of clay that I'll then be able to bring out into that side area. So need a little bit more, so go back in at the bottom here, and we want to move that out into this area here. I later found out I didn't invent this lid. This lid is called a drop lid, and has been used in pottery for a really long time. So then I'm just going to lay this out and down a little bit more. And what we can see happening is it's actually opening out and giving us that width that we need, just past what we need. So, oops, wrecking my nice little top section there. Cool, so I can see that that's wider than what I need the drop to be. I know that that drop will be inside where I need it to be. So I can see we're a little bit thin on the edge here, but it's not too bad. I want to just make sure I lay that down. I might even get my little ribbon fold at this point and really try and turn that very outer edge down. Almost like you do with the edge of a plate. Cool. And the thing I liked about doing it like this when I first started making lidded things was that if you make your lid too big, in trimming, stick it back on and get a trimming tool and actually trim it down to be the size that you need. So if you are just starting out with lidded things and you're wanting to jump straight into teapots, which is exactly what I did, yeah, just this one's quite a good one to start with. And it's also, if you're doing it off the hump, a good one to do with the bit of clay that's right at the end, I find. Oh, and don't do that. So you can see I just knocked it a little bit as I moved it off, but as it stiffens up I can come back in and fix that. So this is teapot number 2 with big spout, little spout, a different style of my normal lid, and a drop lid. Upside down. This one's upside down. This one is, that's the knob at the top there. Okay, so that is everything that I want to do on the throwing section of the teapots. The next episode will be about trimming and also
assembling the teapots, I'll also be doing a little bit of sculptural stuff, and there'll be a few little hints and tips about how to get good joins and that sort of thing when you're doing more complicated sculptural works, especially sculptural functional works. So yeah, I will see you on the next episode. Bye! Alright, that's it from me for this episode. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, comment down below. If you want to see me do any other videos, just let me know. Alright, peace.